Hi guys, Dr. Tracy. I want to talk to you about some Pygame basics so that you could get started with the use of Pygame. Now you have to make sure that you have Pygame installed, or else you can use Pygame on Replit, but make sure that you choose Pygame as your language and not Python. Okay, so um, anyway, chapter 2 is Pygame basics. And the first thing that you want to do is look at this code right here and try and put that in. It says that put this into a file editor and save it as blank pygame.py, which is something that I've already done. So I'm going to open that up using idle. Again, if you're using an online IDE like REPL.it, you can just type that code into there. But I'm going to bring it up on idle so that I can share it with you. So I'll click on open and I'm going to go find that file, which I got to remember where I put it now. I think I put it in documents, Python. So when I open this up, let's look at this code. Here is the code directly from the book. I didn't change anything at all, but I just want to show you what it's doing. Okay, first of all, it says import Pygame and sys. That means it's importing the two modules, the Pygame module and the system module. And the reason why it's using that is because we're going to use Pygame functions here, and we're going to use a system function, which is exit. So then it says from pygame.locals import asterisk. That means that from the local module, import everything that has to do with Pygame. So that statement just says, I want all the functions and all the stuff that comes from Pygame. It's pretty generic. The reason why it says create a blank Pygame is because everything you create that's going to use Python and Pygame needs to have these commands. So this is what's going to create a window. And this window is going to be, it should be 300. This one's going to be 400 wide by 300 tall. You could change this value too. And then set caption. The text said to say hello world, but I said hello CISGAME 403. Same difference. And then this is what we call the game loop, because you notice that the rest of the code is all indented, meaning it's part of the while true loop. And if you needed to exit from it to break out of while true, because true is always true, that's what system.exit is for. So if I run this, run module, I'm going to get Pygame started, and then here I got this window. So this is what Pygame does. It creates windows and lets you draw on them. So now we are going to start building games that are much more than just text-based, because we'll have our own windows for the games to run in, and we'll be able to draw and import graphics and put in sound and make things move around. So get this working first. Make sure that you have a working version of this hello world, basically, before you go any further. So let's talk about graphics and sound. What is important to note in here is the way that you define color. When you define color on a computer, it is based on 3 numbers that are 0 to 255 of red, green, and blue, or RGB values is what it's called. So RGB values just means that every little dot on your computer screen is made up of a red dot, a green dot, and a blue dot. The red dot, the green dot, and blue dot are actually based on the amount of electricity that's given to them. And so when they are on full power, that would be 255. And when they are completely black with no power whatsoever, then that's 0, which is off. And every number in between there is just varying degrees of shades. So there's like 16 million different combinations of colors, but there's also some very common colors. Notice that 255, 255, 255 is full red, full green, full blue. And just like the way the sun works, when you have all of the light, it becomes white. White is all light. And on the opposite end, if you have 0, 0, 0, then that means no color at all, which is black. So if you wanted to create something like just straight blue, for example, you could say 0, no red, no green, and all the blue you can give me. And that's going to create a blue color. And in fact, as I highlighted this 255 somewhere in the program, there was a color that defined that when I do that, it's going to color those pixels with 00255. You can also make a darker blue, so you could say something like 00100 or 00141. The numbers don't matter, although we tend to indicate common colors by using 255 and 128 because that's halfway through. But it's not necessary. Any number will suffice depending on the color you want to use. There's also a fourth number that you can use that you don't have to, but if you use it, this is transparency, and it's called the alpha value. So 0, an alpha value just says how opaque or transparent a color is. If it's completely see-through, we can say that, you know, it's like kind of transparent. 0 means it's completely transparent. I can totally see through it. And 255 means it's completely opaque and I can't see anything behind it. So something like 128, move it over here. Something like 128 is going to be half transparent. So it's going to look kind of faded. So that's a value that we can use for colors too. So Pygame has these objects built into Pygame, and the objects themselves are going to define how things work. So you can see this example showing that pygame.color will create an object, in this case, a red object. And if I add this, that's because it's automatically going to default to opaque. Then it saves it in a variable called myColor. And so now we have a color object. To be able to use that color object, we have to apply it to another object. And so here's an example here of creating a rectangle. When you create a rectangle, it's also a Pygame object. We use pygame.rect. You give the upper left corner, which is x equals 10, y equals 20. Remember Cartesian coordinates. This says it's a width of 200 and a height of 300, and that will create a rectangle. So when we create that rectangle, we have an object. The cool thing about drawing an object is that when I create an object, I have all of these properties that I can manipulate, adjust, or use in drawing. So let's look at this primitive drawing function here. In order to draw this is what it will be. You see it starts with all the stuff to set up a window, which is going to be 500 by 400. And then it's setting up the colors, just giving their values so that we can use the words instead of the numbers. Then it's using the draw function to draw a polygon, a line, a circle, an ellipse, and a rectangle with the colors that are given. So what this says is like, okay, for example here, pygame.draw.circle, display surf blue, 350, 20, 10. That's saying draw a circle in the window that's called display surf right there and make it blue, which is 00255, and make it 300, 500 is the starting corner, and make it 20 pixels wide. So look at that's what happens is that little blue circle was based on that line 23. All right, guys, hope this helps. And have fun with Pygame and read through all this stuff because there's more to go through, and I'll send out some videos later.